am here with another book review, and yes, it's another Colleen Hoover book, Point of Return. This is the second book of the Slammed series, if you guys remember. I've already reviewed that, so if you haven't seen that video or you haven't read that book, go ahead and watch that, read that, because everything will make more sense. We are following, yet again, the main characters of Slammed, Lakin and Will. The book Slammed was from Lakin's perspective, the female main character. This one is Will's perspective. So, as always, I will start by reading the back of the book. I'll give you a general overtone, a general review, and then the back half will be filled with spoilers. This book will be kind of hard not to spoil because, again, it's a part of a series. So, there was a few new characters introduced, but for the most part, we stay in the storyline that we know. So, let's get into it. In the second book in the Slam series by New York Times bestselling author Colleen Hoover, Lakin and Will's relationship has endured through hardships, heartache, and a cruel twist of fate, further solidifying the fact that they belong together. But the two lovers could not have expected that the things that brought them together may ultimately be the things that tear them apart. Their connection is on the brink of being destroyed forever, and it will take an extraordinary amount of willpower to keep their love afloat. Lakin is left questioning the very foundation on which her relationship with Will was built. Will is left questioning how he can prove his love for a girl who can't seem to stop carving pumpkins. Upon finding the answers that may bring peace into their relationship, the couple comes across an even greater challenge, one that could change not only their lives, but the lives of everyone who depends on them. Okay. So, point of retreat. Carving pumpkins. I think that's important. It's mentioned throughout the book, and if you didn't go back and refresh yourself on the first one, carving pumpkins is essentially not talking about the problems that are currently facing us. In the first book, when Lakin's mother was still alive, they would not talk about problems. They'd go, hey, tonight we're just carving pumpkins. We'll deal with tomorrow. So they've kind of told Lakin throughout both books, stop carving pumpkins. You can't keep doing this. You have to talk about the things that are bothering you, okay? So, in this book, Will has an ex that comes back. It causes a problem between Lakin and Will, during which time Lakin's best friend Eddie is pregnant. They are still taking care of their brother's Kellen Caldier, I believe is his name. We have a new character, a new kid that gets introduced. Her name is Kirsten. She lives across the street, diagonal to Will and them. And she has a mother named Sherry. Okay? So those are characters that are coming throughout the book. Let's give a general overtone, and then I'll get into spoilers. I really, really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the second part. I was excited to read this as a series because I wanted more from Will and Lakin. Their story was so cool. If you don't remember, both of their parents are no longer alive, so they're taking care of their little brothers, right? They were always very, very responsible. They put their brothers and the relationship they had to their brothers above their own relationship. So, in that, they don't make love. They don't do anything inappropriate. They are very, cautious around the fact that their brothers are even in the house, could come in, whatever. So point of retreat is they get as close to making love as they can, and it's kind of a game for them to see how close they can get before one of them hits the point of retreat, and they say point of retreat. Okay. So I really enjoyed the book. I'm excited to read the last part of the Slam series. I believe it's a 3-part series. I'm very excited for that. I think if you've read Slammed, you should definitely read this book. It's everything that you're going to want. It's got a lot of cool plot turns. Couple that are ones that is expected, one that's definitely not. So read this, let me know what you think. Now we're going to get into the spoilers of the book. Okay, so Will's ex, Vaughn, comes back into the picture. Will's going to college. Will and Lakin are actually going to the same college. They just don't get on the same schedule. So you're kind of like, okay, they're still choosing not to live together because they had a time set out by her mom. Don't sleep in the same bed and don't have sex for the first year until a year after I'm gone. That means you guys have spent enough time together. You know that it's right. And it was just kind of a respect thing, whatever. So they're coming up to the day when it's supposed to be like a year. They're going to plan a date. They're going to go away, this kind of thing. They have Will's grandparents come into the book as a way to like take care of the boys, to give them some alone time in which they didn't otherwise have that. So Will's ex comes back, and you've never heard of her, but she is sitting across the room from him in college. She comes over and sits next to him, and she's kind of just starts with you can't just ignore what happened between us. And it's from his perspective, so he's saying, like, things ended bad between us. Why is she even talking to me? Like, and I think a lot of guys who have gone through breakups and have ever seen someone they've broken up with have had similar experiences where maybe someone's trying to be nice. They're trying to maybe like tell you that they want to have some sort of conversation or apology, but they're not really doing it. They're just having issues from connecting to the past or whatever. And you're seeing all that, except for Will is drawing a hard line in the sand. I'm with someone. It's very serious. Nothing's going to happen here. And she, being Vaughn, is not doing that. She's clearly trying to be like, we should spend some time together, whatever. So, Will does not tell Lakin, obviously. He kind of rationalizes it to himself. He's like, yes, she was the only girl I've ever slept with. She was who I was with before Lakin, but she left me because of my situation, because my parents died and I had my brother. She didn't want to be a mom type figure. She couldn't handle it, so she left me. Now, Will has a best friend that left for the military whose best friend, his name is Reese, and he shows up at Will's apartment one night after Lakin and Will get in a fight because Vaughn shows up at Will's house the day that Lakin and Will are supposed to go away together. Will's grandparents are there to take care of the boys, and the grandma like invites Vaughn in because she remembers her. She's like, oh, it's so good to see you again, and invites her in. So at that time, Lakin is across the street getting ready. Will and her end up in his room together, and she's like, I'm so sorry, whatever. He hugs her to console her, and he kisses her on the top of the head. And he even says later in the book, he's like, look, I don't feel anything for her, but some things are just habit. Like when you care about someone, I don't know why this microphone makes my nose itch so bad. When you care about someone, some things just come back. Like when they're sad, you want to hug them. Like, and I get how that's definitely inappropriate, but at the same token, you're like, yeah, there was nothing harmful in it. Yes, he was wrong. He didn't cheat on her, but he's got some making up to do. And her whole thing was the real fight of the book. Vaughn says something like, do you really love Lakin, or do you love that she's in the same situation you are and your situations just match? She gets it, so she gets what's going on with you, so it's not a problem. It's nobody else is ever really going to be able to do that. So Lakin is questioning now, like, does he really love me, or does he love me because of my situation? Because he met me when my mom was dying. I took care of my brother. He takes care of his brother. And it just wasn't like, it didn't make her feel good. So she essentially said, like, I know we love each other, but you need to ask yourself this question. You need to figure this out, and whether it takes days, weeks, months, whatever. And he's like, I don't need that. And she's like, no, take time. For both of us, take time. So that way we both know that you made your decision fully. So then they do. It's like the next day, the kids end up setting it up to where Lakin goes to the slam poetry thing. Will writes her a big poem for all the reasons he loves her, including because of their situation, but because of who she is. And they end up fine. Everything's good. They're driving home, and they get in a car accident. You think is going, everyone's in the car. Both the boys, Kirsten, Lakin, everybody. They're in two separate cars, but it was a collision thing. So Lakin ends up in a coma because of her injuries, and you don't know. It's kind of touch and go for a minute. You're like, wow, they finally figured life out. And Will kind of steps up for Kel, who's Lakin's brother, and goes, look, man, no matter what, we're family. You ain't going nowhere. Like, this is family. So, and that was cool. There was one moment in the book where Caldier had to ask Will, like, hey, man, it's breakfast with Dad's day. My dad's dead. Will you come with me? And Kel was in the room, and he was like, yeah, I will. So it was kind of sad you saw the picture. Kel kind of got up and went to walk away, and he's like, "Hey, Kel, would you mind having breakfast with me too?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'd like that." So Will is kind of becoming the dad figure to these boys, and it's just a cool relationship. It makes you feel good. So when the accident happens, obviously you're worried about Lakin, but Will has been so stable, so strong this whole time. You're like, no matter what happens, all these people are going to be good. Everyone's going to be cared for. And I think that guided you easily through the end of the book, where obviously Lakin wakes up, they're together, and it sets up pretty well for what I believe is going to be a happy ending in the third book. So I like the book a lot. It's a 2 out of 3 part in the series, so obviously I don't feel comfortable giving it a 10 out of 10, but I would definitely give this book an 8.5 out of 10. I think that's a fair. I really like this book a lot. I think everyone should read it, but again, didn't blow my hair back. A lot of it was predictable, but I really enjoyed the story, and I'm enjoying the character development as this series goes along. So let me know what you guys thinking of the book. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, subscribe so you see everything that we got going on. Hit the bell, and you'll see it as soon as it goes live, and I'll see you in the next review. Love you.